Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to LA Dodger Report, where we've reached that point in the season that we were hoping would never come. And that is the time to question whether or not the Dodgers ownership and front office management will be firing the manager, Dave Roberts. Now, this kind of question comes up the day after opening day all the time with folks who just can't wait to fire the manager after anything that happens. But the problem is, we're now at the point of the season where the Dodgers are looking so bad and not looking like they're going to improve anytime soon that even level headed, legitimate, respectful and respected opinion staters are even starting to ask this question themselves. Is the question of Dave Roberts being fired on the table? Well, I'll say this much. Here's my piece. I think the question is arising in the front offices and in ownership, but he's not going to be fired today or even next week. That's not going to happen. But I'll tell you what, it's real possible that it does happen if this team gets close to the All-Star break and they still look like this or worse. Yes, Dave Roberts will be fired. That's my guess. That's my prediction, however you want to put it. And part of it is a blame that can be laid at his feet. Part of it is out of his control. Now, a lot of people keep comparing this year's Dodgers to what happened last year. Look, take last year's 2017 World Series Dodgers and throw that whole thing out the window. Just throw it out the window. It doesn't count. It was so unreal that season that nobody could possibly recreate it or get anywhere close to it. All right? Another 47-3 run isn't going to happen. Alex Wood or anybody else on this starting rotation is not going to go 11-0. You're not going to have a half a dozen guys hitting 20 or more home runs. That's not going to happen this year. And so part of the problem is people are expecting that's going to turn around and that magic team's going to return. No way. That was a fluke and it was great and we rode it while we had it, but now we are looking at the reality of this team. And that ain't last year. And it's not even last year's squad anyway, regardless of Justin Turner returning or not. Now, the things that Dave Roberts might get fired for that are under his control are, as I said, if we approach the All-Star break and the team is looking just as bad as it is. Injuries, he can't control. But he makes a lot of dopey in-game decisions. He's not the best or smartest manager on the block. When Don Mattingly came to manage the Dodgers, it was his first managing gig, and I said often at the time, I don't want a guy learning to be a manager with my team. I felt that way about Mattingly, and I feel this way about Dave Roberts as well. I don't necessarily love a guy learning how to be a manager on my team, but that's what it is. And at first, things were looking all right with Roberts. But his in-game managing skills are starting to show the inexperience and refusal to learn past lessons and apply them in order to be a better manager. That's not happening as much as I'd like to see. What we have right now is a team that hasn't changed its philosophy away from sitting around and waiting for a 3-run home run to a small ball offense. That was taking forever to happen. He was still making dopey decisions in the field and not playing the right players or the hot players and sitting hot bats and still playing these percentages and numbers games and so on. Those kind of things are affecting the performance of the team. And Roberts hasn't responded well to that. Now the team is starting to make errors in the field. That means it's starting to get mental with the guys on the field as well. That's when a manager needs to show up. Tommy Lasorda, he'd be doing things a lot differently at this point by now. Heck, even other great managers from other teams, Sparky Anderson, Tony La Russa, they wouldn't be sitting back and waiting for things as much as it appears Dave Roberts is doing. Is it fair that Roberts gets fired if we get there? Well, not necessarily, but a lot of managers get fired and it wasn't fair. You know, it happens. That's where the first head that gets chopped off, regardless of general managers or front office decisions, like Clint Eastwood said, deserves got nothing to do with it. And so Roberts would be the first head to roll. He didn't choose this personnel, but they're not going to fire the front office people before Dave Roberts. That's my guess. He's going to be the fall guy. Now, speaking of front office and how much Dave Roberts is at fault for what's happening with this team, is we don't know everything that takes place behind the scenes. When Don Mattingly left the Dodgers, he spoke out and he said he would have done a lot of things differently, but this front office tied his hands and didn't let him manage. For all we know, the same thing is happening with Dave Roberts. They may be tying his hands and forcing him to sit players and play other players and so on. That might be the place, the thing that's happening with him. But that doesn't matter. Deserves got nothing to do with it, and he'll still be the fall guy. So if things should come around for him to get fired, I'm going to fall back on this, though. He still isn't showing me that he's that great manager anyway. Last year's team that went to the World Series, incredible, magical season. I probably could have managed that team. All you had to do was send those horses out there, and even if they were losing 10-0 in the ninth inning, they seemed to time and time again find a way to come back and win. That's magic, and that's not going to happen again. But there were things that Roberts could control. Dave Roberts gets outmanaged series after series. He got outmanaged in the World Series. I've often said, when you've got two teams that are equal, and that World Series pretty much was two teams that were very equal. When you've got two teams that are equal, the manager makes the difference. That's what happened when we got to Game 7. We had two evenly matched teams, and they got to Game 7. In my opinion, Roberts got outmanaged in that World Series. It never should have went 7, but it did. And when it came down to 7, he got outmanaged, and the Dodgers ended up on the short end of the stick. So if Roberts ends up getting fired this season, I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over it. Won't shed a tear, because he lost the gig when he lost the World Series. Peace.